I want to add a playable Gotham City to Batman Arkham Asylum. The game just received a level editor by username Bit. Creating custom maps is now possible with this game, and you can reuse existing assets that are already in the game to put together a custom map. The modding scene has just been growing significantly for these Arkham games, and the ability to create custom maps for Asylum begs the question, what should we make? Arkham Asylum has one aspect going for it that I feel stands above the rest of the Arkham games, which of course is the atmosphere. I love the more dark and claustrophobic approach of the game, which has me replaying it from time to time. With an editor available, I asked myself what sort of map I feel like working on, maybe more challenge maps, perhaps more areas in the Asylum. Well, I had my own idea. The very beginning of the game gives us a small peek into Gotham City, a Gotham City with Arkham Asylum's unique atmosphere. I want to see what it's like to actually move around Gotham City. Now, I've never designed a map before, nor have I used Unreal Engine 3. This is the first time I'm learning how to do everything you're seeing in this video. I should also clarify before anyone makes the suggestion. As far as I'm aware, there's currently no clear way to edit existing maps using the editor. There may be an editor down the line for Arkham City or Arkham Origins, and those games also use Unreal Engine 3. Working on a custom map and getting an idea of the way Rocksteady would design the maps is definitely helping me prepare for a potential Arkham City or Arkham Origins editor. Should an editor exist for Arkham City, I definitely want to work on a custom and new campaign for the game that's separate from the main story. I have some unique ideas, including changes to make to the gameplay. If anyone's interested in hearing my ideas for a custom Arkham City campaign, let me know in the comments and I may do a video dedicated to it. Bit has also released an intuitive script hook for Arkham City, which is what Ice Mage's KS mod uses. Bit is basically taking the Arkham modding scene to massive new heights and really unlocking the potential of these games. Since this is all very new to me, I don't want to be too ambitious and I'm not sure what the exact limits are in terms of map size for Asylum. You may have noticed Arkham Asylum's open world area is divided into multiple sections, which are separated by doors. The game only loads one area at a time to save on resources and keep the game running smoothly. By contrast, I want to make a Gotham City map that's quite large and mostly just one big section. I don't want to be overly ambitious and do an entire campaign, but I also don't want to do something as small scale as a challenge map that you can beat in a few minutes and move on from. I really like the idea of a small section of Gotham City being playable with a lot of interesting details and different things to find and do, with perhaps a main objective attached to it. This can be an area that players can revisit and spend some time exploring if they want to. I do have to say the editor is harder to use than it looks. It takes some getting used to, but the interface does feel a bit ancient. I drew a basic layout of the map I have in mind using Photoshop. You can see where Batman's spawn point is, so the player starts from here and can explore freely. If you reach the end of the map, it takes you to a factory you can enter. Upon entering the factory, a different map can be loaded with a predator encounter and maybe a boss fight. That's the general idea I have in mind. I'm going to work on a map and see how much I can get done for now. I'm doing a mostly flat ground here. It's possible to add hills and different levels of ground elevation to the map like the other games have, but this is my first time doing a custom map, so I'm keeping it simple. The Asylum editor lets you open existing maps from the game, and there's two areas in the game that give us a small idea of Rocksteady's approach to Gotham City. One of them appears during the second Scarecrow encounter sequence when Batman sees his parents. You notice the bins are just full of papers. There's no other type of litter. Let's check Crime Alley. The Crime Alley challenge map is better to draw from, realizing more details but still being a bit messy. And I don't mean capturing the Gotham City feel messy. When you actually look around, a lot of stuff is thrown together without clear cohesion. But it does make sense. See, Crime Alley is a DLC challenge map that released sometime after the game, but it seems to only reuse assets that are already in the game. There's no new assets specially designed for this map. Every object you see is already used in the campaign. The level designers for this map were limited to using what's already available in the game files, from what I can tell anyway. Also, on a more important note, the windows are so massive and they literally dwarf Batman. They are also very crammed together. We have a good understanding of how Rocksteady designs Gotham City's buildings. If we're building a bigger Gotham City area with a bunch of windows, we're going to have to add a lot of lights. Now, let me clarify something. I'm not an architect and I've never done level design either, but I'm still giving this Gotham City map a try and seeing how it looks over time. I'm following the general map layout I drew in Photoshop. I want to make the buildings feel a bit more realistic than the game's approach, with smaller windows and more space between the windows. While I'm placing these windows, I'm constantly trying to picture livable rooms behind these windows to get the right layout. Also, I must say, it's super interesting getting an idea of how level design was actually done for these games. Obviously, I'm not doing everything one-to-one like the developers, but I am using the same editor and pulling from the same assets. I do have an advantage though. I can actually export objects from Arkham City, Origins, even Night, and add them to this custom map. I did grab some assets from those games using UPK Explorer. Night isn't the most ideal to grab assets from. I tested it and some assets are way too high in quality and require compression, and the results just feel out of place. It's not as simple as just dragging and dropping assets from the other Arkham games. It's a tedious process with a lot of converting and remapping stuff. Arkham Asylum doesn't have any basic cars, so I added some from Origins. I had to work out how to add reflections to the vehicles so they feel more realistic and polished. I added some large buildings in the distance that I grabbed from Arkham City, adjusting their materials to suit Arkham Asylum's darker, more misty vibe. I used post-processing to add some fog in the distance as well, making the atmosphere thick and cold. I added a bunch of street lamps, which I felt could look better with light rays, so I added a bunch of light rays. You're probably expecting me to add actual vehicles driving around or civilians on the map. No way, that's way out of my scope. My headcanon for this map is something bad happened because cliche villains took over and so the civilians ran away. Deep, I know. There'll be some cars parked throughout the map, and if someone is willing to do animations for this map, then I'd like to add some civilians in different places, like the park area or balconies. I can add buildings from the other Arkham games, add some variety to the structures that way. The problem is it becomes obvious this isn't Asylum. I do want to work out a way to add more building variety while keeping the Asylum feel. I added a woods area to the map. I just repeated the same tree assets while changing their rotations constantly to make it seem more natural. I feel like a more secluded area like this only complements the more horror approach Asylum generally goes for. Right now the foliage system isn't working in the editor, so there's no visible leaves on the trees. There's way too many trees here, but if the foliage system works in an update for the editor, then I can remove some of the trees and even add some bushes to the map. I also definitely want to add some enemies in this area for Batman to fight. For the shops, I imported some shop names from Origins. I also worked on some basic interiors. I'd like to make these shops freely accessible, allowing Batman to move around and see different details up close, but I'm not too concerned with taking it that far. I did manage to add windows with real-time reflections that render even Batman, while being able to see inside the shops. I need to see if there's a way to add usable and transparent doors as well. There's also the park area. There's actually not too much to say here at the moment. I expected this area to be a lot more interesting. I did look around the different Arkham games for interesting objects to add to a park area, but I couldn't find much. If anyone has any ideas, let me know. Stuff like a roundabout and a play area would be good to add. We're obviously adding rain to this map. Arkham Asylum lacks rain in the open world for the original version of the game, but certain areas do include rain effects which we can reuse here. Let me know if I should add rain to the base game. I'm still trying to work out how to add grappling to custom maps. Even copying and pasting grapple points from existing maps doesn't work. Another thing to keep in mind, the buildings aren't as big as what we see in the later games. The structures in the other games are just massive. Arkham Asylum wasn't really designed with an open world in mind, so I'm really not sure how far we can push the size and density of this map. The thing about the other Arkham games is that the open worlds are not one singular map. They are actually made up of separate maps which get stitched together and load as you traverse the game world. You'll notice a lot of popping as you're gliding around. I needed to add something to the edges of the playable area to clean up the visuals. I added some taller buildings that you can't see behind or grapple onto. I also added some pipes with smoke emitting from some of the buildings. So I'm almost out of recording space. I'll have to finish this map at a later date, but let's load it in the game. Okay, so the smoke is definitely a bit too bright. This looks okay so far. The rain's working in game. I do really like the way the light rays look. Ignore these white and purple patterns, it happens when the object doesn't load properly. The reflections are definitely not working the way I want them to. It looks like they're lacking some information. Obviously there's still so much stuff I need to add to the map. As mentioned before, the grappling points won't work right now. I need to sort that out. I've only added rain to this one little area for now because I obviously want to add rain everywhere. We're going to do that, but I would have to edit the emitter so that the rain spreads more. Otherwise, if I just copy and paste this rain, I would have to copy it 100 times over. So I just left it as is for now. I'll sort that out. It looks like the collision works properly on the non-Arkham Asylum objects. This one is from Origins. The cube map reflections also work on the car. I don't know what's going on with the rain. It looks like this happens when you're further away, so that needs to be fixed. The skybox isn't loading right now, but the skyscrapers look good to me. Yeah, this map feels pretty big. The thing that's working in my favor, Arkham Asylum doesn't have dive bombs, and there's no grapnel boost, so you can't whiz around the map in 5 seconds. Like, if this was Arkham City's gameplay, you'll just be able to jump around the map and glide through it in seconds. Car park area looks pretty good to me. I don't know what's going on with the park area. It looks like the grass doesn't load properly in the park area. That needs fixing. So I do want to add a moving train to this map. What SpideySansGoku was suggesting is adding it out of bounds off into the distance so you can just see it moving past constantly, which sounds like a great idea to me, and it makes it easier. I don't have to worry about any gameplay issues if I add the train in the playable area. There's so many places we can add different enemies. I do want to add a large body of water here, just going off into the distance. Just make it look like, well, picture the scene from Dark Knight Rises when Batman pretends he's dying. I definitely want to add a dangerous encounter here for Batman. Obviously I need to add stuff like the medical building, the community center, all that stuff, but I'll say everything looks okay so far. Let me take a moment to say I'm something of a fan of the Arkham games. This experience has allowed me to better understand the development process behind the very first game that started it all. It's hard to explain the feeling, but it's good to understand on a deeper level the process behind these games. Rocksteady just did an amazing job here, and thanks to Bit for making this possible, and also for guiding me a lot through the process, and thanks to multiple others for their suggestions and feedback on the map. I'll continue finishing this custom map later. If anyone has any suggestions for the map, like changes to make to any of the buildings or objects worth adding, let me know in the comments. The base of the map is mostly there. I can focus on finishing the map next time and adding some enemies and objectives, but I should get back to focusing on Arkham Knight's Master Overhaul, which is a difficulty mod that's going to lead you to a clickable video right now.